If Nigeria actually has a database of the health workers that are leaving, nurses, pharmacists, doctors, if we have an office that registers their desire to leave, and we have a bilateral agreement with whichever country they're going to. Kenya's done that. They did that last year. So they know every single health worker that is leaving.
Brain drain is defined as a migration of highly skilled individuals from one country to another in search of better conditions of living. This abstract migration predates history. It ignited Western society's contact with Africa and the rest of the world. According to a study by the African Development Bank, ADB, for decades, Africa's development has continued to lag in comparison with other continents. The lag is partly attributed to the continent's low human and economic capital development, particularly the exodus of skilled professionals from the continent.
Brain drain. It's a big issue that is plaguing Nigeria with a young population in Africa and especially Nigeria, of course, who are brilliant, smart, highly educated, and highly motivated. People are bound to look for greener pastures everywhere.
When I left Nigeria in 1992-93, there are fundamental inequities that existed that I realized that if I were to have stayed at that time, the desire that I had to improve myself, to acquire skills, competence, experience, expand my network would not materialize. So while I was acting sector manager in the East Asia and Pacific region of the World Bank, the late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, advised by some of the governors and his senior advisors, invited me back to Nigeria in 2008 to be the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. At that time, there was a crisis with the polio eradication effort globally. Nigeria was failing, and there was a resolution passed at the World Health Assembly on what Nigeria had not been able to do. It was exporting wild polio viruses to 14 countries all over the world. In the midst of that crisis, the president invited me to lead the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. I came back from the World Bank and took on that responsibility for 3 years. When President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan won his election in 2011, after the passing of late Umar Musa Yar'Adua, he appointed me a Minister of State in the Federal Ministry of Health, as well as a member in the National Economic Management Team, with the coordinating minister being Dr. Ngozi Ekonje-Iweala. I served for 2 years in that role, as well as the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on Polio Eradication, which laid the foundation for ultimate eradication of wild polio viruses from Nigeria.
The issue of brain drain has been in the front burner of Nigerian politics and the educational system in Nigeria, and it's something that affects the country, affects its citizens and individuals, and it's something that we should not shy from and we need to talk about.
When you talk about brain drain, well, that's all too well known in Nigeria because a majority of well-doing medical practitioners have actually left the country, of which I am proudly guilty.
I left Nigeria in '92, and I've only more actively been engaged, well, thankfully, in Nigeria and Africa over the last, I would say, 2 years, 2.5 years.
People like myself that left Nigeria now, 30 years ago, we left after we received education that was practically free, up to medical school. But we were able to come to the West and develop more professional skills in our specialties. Any medical specialty, surgery, OBGYN, internal medicine, all the medical subspecialties, even in engineering, information technology. After 30 years in the United States, believe it or not, you're going to feel homesick.
And Nigerians are everywhere. I mean, everywhere. On every continent, wherever you go, you will find Nigerians there. And again, it's just that grit and tenacity. People want to succeed. And if they're not able to find that success at home in Nigeria, they go anywhere else, really, that gives better opportunity.
You can't stop migration, but let's reduce irregular migration. And it's important that government makes the environment possible to be able to create jobs. So we've dealt with a lot of people who are actually living out of frustration and got into bigger frustration. So if you're going, know where you're going to. I think that is the key message.
On the causes of brain drain in Nigeria, according to a study in the Mediterranean Journal of Sciences, Understanding Brain Drain, the paper finds that there is a relationship between poor leadership of the country and the escalation of brain drain. Brain drain is a symptom of a home country's social, economic, or political problems. If you look at Wall Street and Silicon Valley today, you will find out that a good percentage of the top investment bankers and top investment lawyers are Nigerians. Among the top surgeons and healthcare professionals in the world today, you will find Nigerians.
I went to Solomon Islands, which is in the South Pacific, an island which comprises about 900 to 1,000 small islands over 1,000 miles of South Pacific Ocean. Very small country. In the middle of the South Pacific in Honiara, I saw the permanent secretary of health. And he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Nigeria." He said, "Oh, come. Let me show you your one talk." In their language, in the Melanesian pidgin, one talk is your brother. So he took me behind to another room and he showed me a Nigerian physician and ophthalmologist who had trained in Ife, found his way to Australia, got employed by a non-profit organization and sent to Solomon Islands to provide technical assistance. That's an amazing story.
I migrated to the United States with my wife in the year 2000. It was a pleasure growing up in a beautiful country of Nigeria, what it was way back then. And obviously, there were reasons that made me to migrate. But all through my childhood, growing up in the east and the west and northern part of Nigeria, schooling from elementary to secondary and then to the university, it was a great childhood, of which I cannot share or cannot give up for anything else. The brain drain has particularly affected the healthcare industry in the sense that the working condition of the average Nigerian doctor is deplorable. For these individuals who are highly trained, highly skilled, highly exposed to what the global space is in terms of the modern medicine, of course, they'll seek opportunities outside.
The major factors that are discussing brain is obviously the lack of the good educational resources for people finishing medical school and stay back in Nigeria, and also the financial incentives as well.
I would not be here in the United States practicing if I had the same opportunities that I got in the United States and Nigeria. I think Nigeria still has potential. The only problem I personally have with that statement is that I've thought Nigeria had potential for the last 20 years, and I've been hugely disappointed in those 20 years.
There's clearly a lot of potential, and I think everyone that has any Nigerian connection whatsoever, be it born in Nigeria, parents were from Nigeria, second or third generation, there's an ember of Nigeria that is always in our hearts. And if the leadership of the country were to fan those embers, I'm pretty sure it will explode very shortly into a flame. And the truth of the matter is, Nigeria has tremendous potential, and in order to reverse the brain drain and make it a brain gain, we need to partner with all the stakeholders to unlock that potential.
During my time at the Obama administration, I got a chance to work on economic opportunity initiatives. So around education, entrepreneurship, workforce, housing, So it was again a good time just to really focus on issues that really matter. That was one of the first time I actually started to reflect on my childhood and growing up in Nigeria, and really being open. My eyes were open to some of the opportunities we had in the U.S. in terms of having a good functioning system of government, and then also being able to just have really good processes in place, and having good policy at the highest level of government. And I saw how that directly impacted economic opportunity in the U.S. And I started to reflect and to think through how that would be if some of these best practices were were essentially transported over to Nigeria.
All along, I've had one or two visits to the West, particularly in the UK, and I had seen that definitely there are things that, the West has to add on to your basic Nigerian education. First of all, in order for you to do well anywhere, you have to have a basic background education, which we had. Now, we didn't know that, but we had it. When we got here, we found ourselves excelling marvelously in the teaching hospitals here. After we did the board exams, we were some of the best residents. A lot of my colleagues were preferentially recruited here. So you ask yourself, but we came from Africa. But we're excelling here is because the basic educational training and level of general information and education given to us was excellent. And that is why we excelled here.
I think the brain drain has been happening since my parents' generation, really. Even though, like my parents' generation, a lot of my parents' generation that came to the US to get their university education, they went back, but a lot did not as well. But it started since then, but now we're seeing it more and more. Like I said, it's becoming exponential in the sense that, my generation came here and very few went back home, but now our children are staying here. And, it is amazing how a lot of Nigerians are in the news. And sometimes they hold the Nigerian flag, but then their talent or whatever it is that they're being acknowledged for was not done by Nigeria. So, we're talking about, my husband is a huge UFC fan and watches MMA. You're talking about Israel Adesanya, you're talking about Kamaru Usman. They're Nigerians and they're boxing, they carried the Nigerian flag. But that talent was not developed in Nigeria. It was developed in the US. How many boxers in Nigeria do you know that got their talent developed in Nigeria are currently on an international platform? I don't know of any, right? So you're seeing all these Nigerians that are making headline news. So we talked about MMA. Let's talk about someone like Atetokounmpo, originated from Nigeria, but moved to Greece to get better life. And he will every now and then will represent the Nigerian flag. But how many basketballers do you know that they develop their basketball skill in Nigeria and are on an international platform? So it's really just sad because, again, we're talking people in Hollywood too, and just all walks of life that just didn't have that opportunity to develop their skills. The infrastructure wasn't available back home in Nigeria, and they went somewhere else and were making headline news all over the world. And it's like, there's another one. We're talking athletes too. Runners running for other countries, other African countries sometimes, Arab countries, just anywhere. It's almost like people will go anywhere where the government will take care of them.
Nigeria's healthcare system has been plagued by brain drain for over a decade. Hence, doctor-to-patient ratio is at 1 to 4,900, as against the WHO recommended ratio of 1 to 600. We must then ask ourselves, why are these good brains being harvested by foreign countries to the detriment of their home country.
I think Nigeria can truly be the land of opportunity. In the healthcare sector, we clearly have proven that we have the brains for it. We have a number of hugely successful medical practitioners all over the world who are Nigerian, the majority of whom actually did the original training back home in Nigeria, myself included. But the reason there's a but is there has to be opportunity. Without opportunity, there will be no progress. The healthcare system, from what I can tell, apart from some recent improvements in the private sector, is still woefully inadequate. So we as Nigerians have to have a candid conversation with ourselves to see, do we truly value health? Growing up, I always used to hear that expression, health is wealth. But do we truly value health in Nigeria? Because Nigerians die of some really many avoidable problems.
I know in the past couple of years, I know of Nigerians who are my age that have relocated to other countries. And at 53, you're reaching the peak of your career. You don't want to start all over again. And it's really painful to hear the stories of some of my colleagues who were at the top of their industry going to start all over again in another country, in a foreign country. And just because they want the same opportunities for their kids that they had.
Many Nigerians want to Japa.
Two of my best friends now are in the United States, and then it is one of the things I, missed a lot. And then, sincerely, I'm currently working and looking for several opportunities to just Japa and leave the country also. Sincerely, I want to go to the United States. I want to meet with my friends, work there, live a good life, because seeing their views, seeing them on social media, the things they do and how they do it over there and how easy life has been for them, it is a wonderful experience I also want to participate and take part of. So I am currently looking for the chances to just Japa immediately. And if I have it, sincerely, that might be the last time I'm ever coming back to this country.
In the last 4 years, we have 50,000 young Nigerians with technical skills who have migrated to Canada alone. Another 20,000 left in 2022 to other developed countries. The UK has just given visas to 16,000 Nigerians. The numbers keep rising, leading to the loss of our great nation's brain box. How long do we as a government allow this to continue unabated? No government can prevent emigration in the face of opportunities or lack thereof, but all they can do is to formulate policies that will make our country more attractive, so that when you Japa, you will also Kakpa, quoting Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala's acronym used to mimic the return home. It is not all doom and gloom for the concept of brain drain.
Would I like to Japa? No, definitely not. And I know that it's crazy, yeah, because people would be wondering, why would a young girl not want to leave the country when you have the opportunity to? And people have to stay back to make it work. And it's a country that once you have what it takes, you have the energy, and you have the focus, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. Entertainment is a big space that's really taking Nigeria forward. And as a creative art student, I know the value of entertainment, and I'm willing to pick it up here in my country rather than going somewhere else to achieve it.
Japa for me, okay, personally, let me start with that. I'm not interested in Japa. I never thought about Japaing. I'm not pictured myself leaving this country to other countries because, like my lecturer just say, you understand, Nigeria is down, but we are not totally out, you understand, and there's lights at the end of the tunnel. So you just have to find the lights, yeah. Because I've had friends like Japa is working for them, understand, and not everybody will tell you about their pains and everything. But I believe here there are more opportunities if we can look inward. The likes of Dangote will never tell you they want to Japa, you understand? Because this is where their business is, this is where everything is. So I believe for me, yeah, I will make it here. as an artist, I can work here and you see my work anywhere around the world. I have international exhibitions I currently have shows going on in Austria, Vienna, Austria. And so I believe, depending on what you do and depending on how you package yourself, from Nigeria, you can be global from anywhere you are. You don't have to leave your home country, understand? Because no place like home, definitely. And there are privilege we have as Nigerians here that you don't get when you leave the countries. They won't tell you until you get there.
While solutions were proffered to the lingering problem of brain drain, the most important ones are good leadership, commensurate salary and conditions of service, as well as a rewarding system for diligent staff and mass employment.
In the Nigerian space, we need to understand that the countries that have been successful in the West have devoted a significant amount of their gross domestic product towards education and training. I believe that we are not meeting those minimums. We need to invest more in education.
A lot of people in the diaspora are beginning to retire. In my year, which was the 1991 set of UCH, 90% of us left University of Ibadan. So 90% of us left and went abroad, America and England. But we're coming to the age, nearing our 60s, that we do want to come back. A lot of my colleagues are speaking to me, what are the opportunities on a daily basis? And we need to be prepared, because although they might have slowed down or retired in whatever country they've gone to, they still have skills that would be useful to us.
If the country, through its political leaders, can really tackle the issue of upgrading our facilities, making sure doctors are paid adequately, and making sure that then a lot of us will actually come back to Nigeria and offer our services to the country. Like India, for an example, for medical tourism, a lot of the doctors there actually trained in the United Kingdom, United States, and what have they done? They've taken some of that technology, that knowledge, back to their home country, and pretty much they have a good standard of medical practice in India. So that's something that I would like to see Nigeria emulate, and it's something we can do in the future.
One of the things they need to do is identify those individuals with the capacity and the trust to lead in the healthcare industry.
I think I'll build on the Diaspora Commission, which has been created, which is led by Dr. Abike Dabiri. Make it a platform that organizes, has a sense of who is out there in the diaspora, categorizes them, engages them, makes it easier for them to have a home when they come back, because many of the diasporans have been a bit disconnected over the years, and they're in different stages in their careers. Connect them with each other, establish mentorship programs, some of whom might mentor others that are within the country. So there are researchers, academicians in Nigeria who can be connected with those in the diaspora who may not necessarily come back overnight, but they would like to contribute. So a platform like that can ease that transition back home.
Currently in Nigeria, we're producing about 4,000 doctors annually, and 60% of these doctors go abroad. So if we have an idea of the number of doctors going out, we can increase our production. We could double it to 8,000. That means we'll still have about 3,000 to 4,000 doctors staying behind. And with time, this would increase. We could even have collaboration with other universities, from England, Canada, all the different countries that Nigerians go to. That way will increase our standard of education, which then means we also in Nigeria would have quality healthcare delivered and led by doctors.
We've seen China move in to provide the needs of Africa, where they're everything from infrastructure to agriculture. But it comes at a price. With working with countries like China, unemployment's gone up. They bring the funding, they bring the companies, they bring this technology, they bring the resources, they bring the labor. But where does that leave us? And that's where we as Africans, African immigrants, Black people have to position ourselves to change those opportunities. Just 2 days ago, here at the Capitol, we hosted the Ghana Tourism Board. And one of the things that has happened over the last few years is there's been an uptick in interest for people to go to Ghana, not just on tourism alone, but have relocated. That they're African Americans who have relocated, become citizens, invested businesses. They live there now. Those are the opportunities that I see can happen in Nigeria.
So being first generation, one thing that our parents always instilled into us was to never forget where you come from, and just a pride about being Igbo, being Nigerian, and just a lot of the great things that are part of our homeland and our legacy. And, I can remember being young and being able to experience Nigeria through visits back to Imo states, or even experiencing different cultural events here. And it very quickly becomes a part of your identity, and a part of your identity that you cherish. And so as I've had the opportunity to really grow and get an education here at some really good institutions and gain a lot of professional experience, with that thought in mind of never forgetting home, we're always looking back to where there are other opportunities that we can be of help to Nigeria and to the Nigerian people, not even so much from a place of charity, but just to really help the country continue to grow and develop and really actualize its potential. One thing that I think that the Nigerian government at both the federal and the state and even LGA level can do is to really look at implementing specific agencies who not only are responsible for designing and implementing environmental-focused policy, but then enforcing that policy and then assuring quality control when it comes to not only the removal of these materials, but building new construction.
Living for greener pastures is not a bad thing, as long as the pastures really do get greener, not the other way. So here's the thing. What opportunities are there back home for those who want to return and contribute? Are we going to frustrate them? Are we going to give them those opportunities? Are we going to make it easier for them? That is the role of the Diaspora Commission. And we're glad that a lot of Nigerians abroad are coming back to see what they can do. They're bringing in businesses. They're bringing in partners. They're promoting Nigeria across the world. So really, it's not a negative thing if you go abroad, but then you want to come back home. What kind of home do you want to come back to? What are the opportunities back home? What is the development that you can bring back home, having after acquired the knowledge and capacity and training? And wherever you go, home will always be home. As the saying goes, no matter how far a river flows, it can never cut off from its source.
Until recently, though not a new phenomenon, brain drain has become an issue that is assuming a pandemic level, so much so that authorities have resorted to the use of legislation to stem its tide, as was attempted recently by the Nigerian legislature.
You can't legislate your way out of brain drain. You can make whatever rules you want, but the people that want to leave will still leave. So I understand that recently there's some legislation being tabled that says that medical practitioners have to practice for 5 years before they can leave Nigeria. I'm sorry, that is definitely not a solution.
We've dealt with a lot of people who are actually living out of frustration and got out and got into bigger frustration. So if you're going, know where you're going to. I think that is the key message.
I exemplify an individual who was born, raised, trained, equipped, prepared in Nigeria, ventured out to develop myself, ventured out to the Gambia, worked globally in many countries in the world, came back and contributed, went back and continued to provide public service in the global arena. That is the idea of circular migration.
According to a study conducted by Price Waterhouse called Strength from Abroad, Economic Power of Nigeria's Diaspora Remittances, these funds represent income from foreign economies, mainly from the temporary or permanent migration of people to those countries. Remittances include cash and non-cash items that flow through formal channels such as electronic, wire, and informal channels such as cash and goods carried across borders.
Another aspect of this brain drain that I see as a positive is the fact that the funds, the monies being earned abroad, do return home in the form of investment in property or even remittance to friends and family. This, I know, contributes a significant sum into the generated revenue for Nigeria. I don't know the absolute figures, but I'm sure it'll be in the billions.
And the diaspora has been very beneficial. During COVID-19, for instance, they got together, contributed well over 60 million naira, and were able to give out PPEs to every state of the Federation.
The importance of remittances and the role they play in the economies of the migrants' countries of origin are immense. They help poorer recipients meet basic needs, fund cash and non-cash investments, finance education, foster new businesses, service debt, and essentially drive economic growth. According to the study, 70% of remittances are used for consumption purposes and 30% for investments.
I am one of those that believe the future is definitely bright. It may not seem like that sometimes, but Nigeria will get there, and we have human capital that is tremendous. People should remember that 1 in 5 Black people worldwide are Nigerians. 1 in 4 Africans are Nigerians. That is tremendous. That's human capital. Now you have to focus on that human capital. You need to understand that our capital, our strength as a country is not necessarily oil. It's that human capital. And if we can unleash that potential, there's no stopping that country.
If Nigeria actually has a database of the health workers that are leaving, nurses, pharmacists, doctors, if we have an office that registers their desire to leave, and we have a bilateral agreement with whichever country they're going to. Kenya's done that. They did that last year. So they know every single health worker that is leaving. And you can actually get not necessarily financial benefits, but you could have benefits in kind in terms of investment in our education. There might be universities abroad that want to collaborate with us, send their lecturers to teach in our medical schools so that the standard of education in our medical schools could go high.
We must, as a matter of urgency, address the issue of brain drain head on so as to arrest this trend and reverse the drain to gain.